Welcome to episode 5 of Awesome Africans, brought to you by the African Futures Academy. We are all about creating spaces for the youth in Africa to explore themselves and the problems that they want to solve to create more equitable, conscious futures for all. We are a movement creating awareness and resources to enable the next generation to think about the future in ways that are different from the past that we inherited. Today we're talking to Aasiyah Adams, the founder of a nonprofit organization that aims to transform lives through education and innovation. It's all about empowering, upskilling, and motivating the youth to make informed decisions by providing them with access to information and opportunities. Hi, everybody. This is Zahara, and today we have Aasiyah Adams with us. She's a mother. She's a triple BEE and transformation strategy consultant, and she's also the founder of Abagukuli. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's fine. It's a little bit of click, but it's Abagukuli. It's fine.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what Abagukuli is about. How did you start this great idea?
Firstly, I want to say thank you to you for reaching out to us. It's an absolute honor for people like you also doing amazing things in the community and in Africa to reach out to us and to recognize and to give us this platform, because every bit of platform, as you know, being a non-profit organization is important to us. Without the help and the support of people out there in organizations, we are nothing. So I just wanted to say that first.
You're welcome.
Abagukuli is, I started Abagukuli because I come from a very technical aerospace environment, and it was a funny story actually. My son was about 8, and I worked for a company that built unmanned aerial systems, and he saw it. He went to school and he came back and he was like, "Ugh, these kids don't even know what a UAS is." Now, obviously, he knew that, but it resonated with me in that kids on the Cape Flats and kids in the township will never know. And I just felt that we are now going to disadvantage a large part of the community that are already unemployed, living in really impoverished areas, disadvantaged, and just not connecting with 4IR. Now, whether we like it or not, and I had a bit of a debate with somebody, and they're like, "Why you call it fourth industrial revolution? We're not in industrial, we're not in a revolution." And I said, it is what it is. So is capitalism, and yet here we are, you know. Um, so we're moving forward, and the more we move forward, the more we're going to leave a large part of our vulnerable community out of it. And that's where it started. So it was just an idea, and I was like, how do we include them? How do I take this world to them? These kids hasn't seen something like this. This is the way of the future. And then I walked into a client's premises, and it was a call center, and I just saw hundreds of people. I think there were probably about 600 occupying this place. And call center jobs, if you look at the 4IR and the World Economic Forum, are probably going to be obsolete. And most people move into call center jobs, into admin jobs. And I just felt somewhere we need to make the transition, somewhere we need to raise the awareness. And that's how Abagut really started.
Yeah, I love what you're doing. I mean, it's so important. I agree, 100% with your whole perspective on this, that, a lot of the country is disadvantaged. They're going to be left behind if we don't get these skills to them, and they're going to end up, further, not having the right skills to even participate in the workplace, so how do we reach them? So I really, admire what you guys are doing. So let's talk about, I ask this question to everybody. What does it mean for you to be African, right? We're looking at African solutions, African everything, our culture. What does it mean to you?
Firstly, I think my hair is very African.
I love
um,
it.
I think African for me for a long time has just been so negative, and I think it's also my reality. Being African is being judged by the color of your skin, because the standard is very Eurocentric. Being African is being judged by your hair, and for a long time, I mean, this clicks revolution, if you can call it, meant a lot to me. My parents endured the pencil test, and I think that a part of me growing up, it was so important to be fairer. Your hair texture must be straight. people that are fair with green eyes are beautiful, and you keep growing up in this kind of environment until you're like, "Oh, I love me." And I only found out how much I love me when I traveled, because people are like, "I love your skin, oh, your hair is beautiful," and you're like, "I am." Because I don't see it that way because of the indoctrination and the mental slavery. So being African to me almost felt like nothing's going to change, that there'll never be a transformation, there'll never be a turnaround, because we're so westernized and we're so basing our standards on colonization and apartheid, that we can't get back there. And I speak completely from my own tribe. When I say my own tribe, my ethnicity, which is colored, my background, which is, or my religion, which is Muslim. So I speak about Malay. And it's very sort of like a very culture of like, yeah, it's just a lot of discrimination and prejudice. I don't even want to get into it. So being African to me was never relatable because I'm colored. I'm not African. I grew up that way until I realized that, oh my word, I am African, and I'm truly African. And my heart's always been African. And everything I fought for back in the apartheid was for Africa. And then you look at Africa and you're like, how does a continent like Africa have everything and sit with nothing? How do we sit with famine when we have all the natural resources? How do the big tyrants of this world, how do they have everything? And I'll give an example. Britain, they have nothing, no natural resources, no nothing, and they have everything, and their pound is so strong. So a big part of it was introspection, being African, I think I'd start. And then the other part was finding myself, where I'm like, I love my hair. I love being dark skinned. I love the fact that we don't speak one language and that I have to learn all languages. I love the fact that when people see me, they're like, "You're from Mogadishu? Are you Somalian? Are you Nigerian? And then are you Venezuelan? Are you Spanish?" And then of course the integration of the Moors in Spain and all of that, and Portugal. And I think that's when I realized that it's more about being exotic. But the most part of Africa that I like, and you can go anywhere and meet anyone in any country, is that we have a total connection. And I think we have the humility because we have relatable sufferings. So I think that part to me is being African. And for the longest time, I was trying to search who I am, and what I'm doing, and why am I fighting my own tribe? I call it my own tribe, colored Malay. Why am I fighting my own tribe with so much prejudice? But I think um, when you're comfortable, you're okay to defend, and not just defend, but be proud. And I always say this, I'm an African. That's it, full stop. I don't care what you have to add after that. Yeah.
I know, I love that. It's all about introspecting and finding your place and finding peace with yourself. For you to be able to actually do something, for this continent, to kind of share your gifts, I guess. You have to go through that process, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, Zara, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is undoing what we've learned and what we've been taught. And it's hard. It is so hard to, when the light bulb went on and you're trying to preach, you sound like you're just trying to preach, preach, preach all the time. And you're like, are you crazy? Have you learned real history? Because remember, we learned gutter education. We learned how perfect the white species were, and how, Shaka Zulu just killed them. He was bad guy, anyone who was black. And we've learned all how they had to do the trick. And you're like, almost like shame until you learned the truth. And you're like, this is what you did to us. So yeah, sorry, I can go on. This is my topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like an awakening that's happening. A lot of people are becoming more conscious of what really happened and how it affected them, and then just trying to deal with that. So a lot of truth has to come out through storytelling, I guess. So it's
Absolutely.
important that we share these kinds of stories, and there's so many problems we have to solve in Africa. Like, what do you, in your mind, what are the biggest problems we need to solve, or we need to be focusing on as we go into the fourth industrial revolution?
I went to a very interesting seminar. So we get invited to all these 4IR, and I sit on the 4IR panel for South Africa. Um, it was very nice because they had all these speakers. So there was academics, and how they balanced this platform was amazing. So the professor would come in and say, 4IR, and we're building this and we're building that. And someone else would say, we still have outside toilets. Kids still walk 3 kilometers. They have to cross a river. Anyway, so it went on with your mind just like, oh, yes, and no, why? And you just keep on doing this. But the last speaker was Congolese, and I think I was probably in tears when he spoke. He was going through the period of everything that evolved. When you built tires, so many Congolese died building the tires. So Dunlop killed millions of people through the building of tires. When somebody won a war, the English won a war, so many kids died in Congo building the guns, the ammo, the whatever. And I think when we look at problems, I think there's one thing that I just want to say is that I don't know if we'll ever, and only God knows, I don't know if we'll ever do the turnaround of the 5 wealthiest people controlling us, because 4IR is driven by wealthy people. This is something they want, and this is something that's going to happen. So you can sit back and say, I'm not going to follow the norm. The truth of the matter is they still control the economy, and there are people that need to eat, that need to work, that need to survive. And this is why we came up with it. Our intentions were to keep people in the loop as opposed to out of the loop, and they become even more disadvantaged. So I think the biggest problem for me, or the biggest things that needs to be solved in this world, I think it is anything to do with changing our mindset. We need, and I looked at your courses, and I think one of your questions you asked me was, well, what courses would you like to do? And I was like, what a rhetorical question. All of them. They're so needed. It is, when I look at your courses, if I had to do it, if somebody had to ask me, that's exactly what I would have done, that you guys are doing. When we need to do some introspection, and not just as people of color, I'm talking about light-skinned, European, they need to do some introspection. We often hear, we weren't part of apartheid. We shouldn't be blamed, but you're benefiting from it. The same way a black child is not benefiting from it and is being disadvantaged. Also not part of apartheid. Also like a, what do they call it, born free. But their parents are still a domestic, still having a really crappy job. So I think it's first the mindset. I think secondly, our problem is that we need to create more starting your own, as opposed to I want to be an employee. And I am a product of that slavery. I grew up, you must get a job, keep it. When I gave up my one job, my dad said, are you sure? When I said I'm going to start on my own, oh, are you sure? Where are you going to get money from? You have this, you have, so we don't have obviously we don't have generational wealth, and we don't have the confidence, and we have all the insecurities. But guess what? We have all the ideas, because when you come from a survival kind of environment, you come up with better ideas. It is ideas to change the world. So I think we need backup, financial backup, obviously, but we need to change it more into starting your own business. And I think the way the world is controlled, not I think I know, is that they wouldn't want you to start your own business, and they'll probably monopolize it. But just imagine if you do. And just imagine how many jobs you can create. Because I promise you, somebody who creates a job coming from a poor environment, they're going to pay well. They're going to treat them well, because they've been through all that exploitation. There are so many problems, Zara, and you are the last person I want to talk to, because you will go on for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Just judging by what you do and your website. There are so many problems. I think just access, man. Access to, somebody said once to me, their child couldn't get into TVET college. Now, TVET is very low level in here by us. All I had to do was be a little rude, with a little bit of like my English is high level, and say, how can this child, whatever, and they got a bursary. It didn't take me anything. That phone was at my company. That time was 3 minutes. It was just to assist somebody. It's the access to opportunities, just access. Every person, every child deserves access to opportunity.
Yeah, I 100%, agree with whatever you're saying, because that's why we're here, why we're having this conversation, right? we know this is the problem. We want to give as many people the opportunity to learn these skills that are so important. I mean, we recognize that we know what's happening, especially in the world of work, the way it's changing, and you guys have created this whole program around, kind of upskilling or changing the kinds of skills that we give to the young people. So maybe tell us a little bit about, exactly, some of those skills and it sounds so exciting. So you tell us about it.
I know I'm not the average female sitting in the conversation, generally, because my level of interaction and who I deal with is completely different. So we keep monitoring the World Economic Forum reports, and we are using it as our basis. And I'll give you an example. If you look at even a doctor's job, it's probably going to become obsolete now. Doctor, when I was younger, my age, to be a doctor, a fireman, a teacher, those were the jobs, right? But they're going to become obsolete. And what I don't understand is that the more we talk about 4IR, the more people are not doing anything. Why aren't the schools changing? It's almost this perception, and maybe I'm a little frustrated. I don't want to use angry. I am angry at a lot of things that's not there yet. Maybe I'm a little frustrated, but it's almost this perception that it's going to go away. 4IR is going to go away. And as long as we keep doing what we're doing, it'll be okay. If you look at the education system in South Africa, probably designed in 1995, my son is bored completely, right? And there's a meme that says, I don't know how to do my taxes, I don't know how to do this and that, but at least I know the parts of a locust. They're still doing the part of a locust that I did at school. I mean, like, really irrelevant. And I think for me, we wanted to create a place where you're not only going to become employable, that's not our aim, but marketable. The world is so small, being on the internet, that I can do freelance coding for another country. So I wanted people to start believing that, they can connect to another country, they can work there. You speak the same language, you speak coding, you don't have to speak their language, or they don't have to speak yours. You're speaking a language of coding, and coding is a language. So we looked at all the things that you can probably design your own, start your own, be a freelancer, and then network. So our core 4IR was remote pilot license. And the idea was that if you speak to so many people who wants to become pilots, they can't afford it. My friend runs an NPO for pilots, and she is a pilot, and she is in full hijab, and she's the only female, so she gets a lot of flack. And she said to me, Aasiyah, it'll probably take you 1.5 million to do your pilot's license, because you need to do, cargo flying, and then you can be commercial. And she flies Airbuses. And I wanted to bring that reality to people. I wanted them to feel like they're the pilot, but also bring them to 4IR. So we do a remote pilot license. So it's a Civil Aviation Authority certificate license, actually, like a car license. You do a medical pilot before you do it. You need to have good vision, so I do color blindness as well. And then in line with that, we do BV loss, so that's when you can't see the drone anymore. Now, drones, to people are like, oh, my little son, I bought him a drone, it's so cute. We're talking big boy toys. We're talking the size of an airplane, going 16,000 feet, flying 500 kilometers autonomously, having the size of a suitcase where your ground station's at, where you can monitor anything on this from this drone. Now, a lot of places have already drone taxis. There's robots out there, and I almost feel like we're trying to evade it. We're trying to stay away from it, and I can't understand. A simple example, in Saudi, to clear the haram during COVID, they had robots. Nobody was in danger. It was in Kenya, I believe, they had, your COVID testing is a robot. So there are robots there, you punch in your name and you do it. Nobody was in danger of their lives, So do we agree with everything the way the world's going? I don't think half of the things we agree with, but it's going there. So either we embrace it and be part of it, or we're really strong enough to stand up and say no. I doubt we are. The fun part for me is that it entices kids, it entices people. My son is already glued. to his laptop, to his Xbox. So off the topic, I've just designed a school. We're busy with the software. And this school does voice recognition, face recognition. So this will say, "Morning, Zara, how did you sleep last night?" Immediately when you switch on. Because I need to entice a grade R to grade 7 child. You need to connect with this thing like it's your buddy. Like you had a bad day, you really don't feel for school, and this thing needs to pick it up. It monitors how long you take. So it has a time frame for, let's say you need to do a sum and you're taking too long. Then there's a pop-up. You say, "Are you doing okay there? Tell you what, why don't you try this?" So it immediately detects. Otherwise, that child's gone and get some cool drink already. So it immediately detects if you're not there. And then we include all 4R. So robotics, artificial intelligence, and coding is in there. But the fun one that I like is that we've included a simulated game to do online trading. So everybody's like, a grade R to a grade 7. And I'm like, if kids play games and they know how to do online trading, there are 4 passive incomes. Bitcoin is going far ahead of us. The JSE, if you grew up in a home that had all their privileges, I didn't, you'd be playing the stock market with your little bit of money, just testing it. Why can't our kids do it? Why can't we give them the privilege? So that's just off the topic. So we do PV loss, we do remote pilot license, we do 3D mapping. So you look at the whole area and then you'll zoom in and you'll see. So a lot of it we do for surveys. So we do land, air, and sea. So if you feel that you want to survey a mountain because there's been so many fires, alien vegetation, we do 3D mapping on the whole mountain. And then we say, but the fires were just concentrated there. So it's a lot of cinematography that we do. We do data analysis specifically to drone. It's no use you have the drone and they do the surveillance and you can't analyze the data. I've heard many people say, "Oh, the stuff come up days later, weeks later." So we want to teach you how to do the data analysis. And I think just the mobile apps, the coding, the robotics, artificial intelligence, that's what we do as well. And it's just been a phenomenal journey, absolutely
Yeah,
phenomenal.
it sounds amazing. I mean, even this, the educational thing that you were talking about, we'd love to hear more about that, as
Yes,
you
we'll keep you
as you develop
posted.
that, we'd like
Yeah.
to chatting to you again. So how could like kids, if they're interested in this kind of thing in getting their drone pilot's license, how do they know more about it?
So, Zara, we've had so many requests from the community. Our objective, and I think you and I discussed it, is for unemployed, underprivileged. And I'll give you an example of our kids. One guy had to take 6 modes of transport for the interview. Now, he doesn't know if he's going to get it. And when he said that, I said he's going to get it. I'm going to give it to him because that was just heartbreaking for me. 6 modes of transport. What did he endure? All the violence, all the crime, all of that. And then we had somebody traveling the night before, so they traveled the whole day to get to the interview as well. So these were things that really got to me. But we've only been doing it for underprivileged, which means that we get funding, and there's never enough funding because there's out of the 100 kids that we took on, we got 6,000 CVs probably.
Wow.
So there's never enough funding. But now we're giving it out to the community because people are like, "Oh my word, that looks amazing." So normally our training costs between 30 to 35,000 rand each. That's funded. It's a lot of electronic work, a lot of signing off, and we're offering it to our community for 22,000. It's over a period, obviously, and you'll get your CAA, South African Civil Aviation Authority, drone license. So that is what we're running right now if people want to. And then my contact details, obviously, I think you've got it now. It's
Yeah.
asia@abagutuli.co.za if you just want to.
I'll put all of that on the
Yeah.
links so they can
But
just
but
click on it.
but people keep asking me, must I have matric? Must I have this? Most importantly is that they must have hand and eye coordination. They must be in good health, and that's not our recommendation. That's the CAA, so they do a medical pilot. They mustn't be colorblind because everything is coordinated by colors, like your traffic lights, coordinated. And then they must be at a level of English. So if English is your fourth, third, or whatever language, the CAA wants you to be at a level of English. So sometimes we'll recognize your English in something you studied or finished. Like if you finish matric, if you haven't, you have to have a good command of English because radio control is what most people fail. You need to know the codes of
Okay.
the radio when you do radio control. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll put all of that information on the site so people can access that if they're interested. So like, yeah, so we have all these ideas. There's so many new things coming up. What is your vision for the future of Africa? What do you see for our communities going forward?
I hope that we really work strong towards economic transformation. My background, I'm a triple BE strategist, like you said earlier. And, when people hear that word, they all got their back up. And it's also media indoctrination. And I'm like, do you understand what it is? Because I do it. That's it. And I dare you to just go and Google BE consultants. I'm probably the only one that's a level one, which is sad because how does a level five white owned company understand BE? Which means, are we doing BE for transformation, or are we doing BE for the points and to make it go away? And that's the part that saddens me. So I'll give you an example of BE. You need to spend 2% net profit after tax, right, on skills development. What I tell the companies is spend it on a company that is an NPO or that does community work in the community, spend it on unemployed, and then you still gain your skills development points, right? Now imagine I have to spend 5 million rand. Every company has to spend 5 million rand and we educate the unemployed. If we do BE really well, we can make a difference. I spend 5 million at a time for companies. So I know that there are companies that does it, but they don't do it for the right reasons.
Mm.
And then if you look at the enterprise development, you've got to take a black owner or black owned company, and you've got to do certain amount of things depending on your finances. And I'm just like, if every company did it, why are we still in this space? Why are we still not economically transformed? What is my vision for Africa? My vision for Africa is that we take our Africa back. That uh, we really feel that. I always hear the story about, oh, if there's no farmers, what's going to happen? And I'm like, who are the farm workers? You know, but if we let this company out, and I use an example on my Facebook. So there was a company called Aasiyah Metal, I think it's called, and the old ISCO, I just know them like that. Sorry, they've been here since 1928, 95 years. They're threatening to pull out, and all hell is breaking loose with people saying, they leave, we don't have jobs. And I'm like, you had 95 years and we couldn't start our own, and we couldn't do it homegrown. It's steel, they do steel work. And I say, how does a European country from Luxembourg have full control for 95 years in our country? So my wish is that we take things back, and my wish is that anyone that has made it out there, and I'm talking about the real billionaires, millionaires that came from Africa, has any roots in Africa. Akon is one example, doing the whole Bitcoin thing, that they give back genuinely, like genuinely give back and transform it and bring Africa back to Africa. That's my vision.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's, the kind of attitude we need more of. People need to wake up and take stock of what is going on, not just like be unconscious about what's going on around them. And that's so important. So like what advice would you give, for the young people out there about just doing that?
Sure, it's so hard because I know what it's like when you're stuck in a rut. Um, and this is the thing that I hate the most when it comes to matrix, when people say, you see, hard work pays off. It's close to poverty porn because you have no idea what somebody's been going through. You have no idea if a child has been raped night in, night out, and then has to write an exam. If somebody hasn't eaten for days, you have no idea what frame of mind the child is in. So I think it's very difficult. What I like to do is I like to take people like me, and I normally give talks, and I come down and I say, I come from the Cape Flats. This is what I've become. And a child asked me once, they asked me, it was strange because normally they ask me, how do I become this? And where can I go? And I go, you go to this city. And he asked me the most beautiful question. He said, who made you you? Who inspired you? And I said, I can't answer you. I need your number. I need to think about it. And I did. So I come from a very conservative Muslim home. I know you can't see it right now. My dad shouldn't see this. where I was just, you must, and you must, and a good Muslim girl, and you know, and I fought all of that all the time. And I went from my dad, I love him, he's everything, my confidence and all of that is him, but there were a lot of things I didn't like about growing up. Um, I went from a man's home to another man's home, and I was ruled again, and I was told what to do, and it was a completely toxic, and I mean, it was a very bad relationship. I went through abuse, I went through all of that in that marriage. But I was told, you made your bed, you lie in it, right? So what I'm trying to say is, when I thought about all of this, my parents, they instill my upbringing, my spirituality, my confidence is my dad. My mom is the caregiving. My mom goes to a public hospital and she's got 2 flasks of tea with her, with sandwiches and just giving the whole bench. So I grew up that way, and my mom would always say, when we get paid, don't forget to give back. Give your sadaqat, which is our charity in Islam. Don't forget to give your sadaqat. And those are things that are important. But my inspiration I drew from, I think, Teresa Solomon. She was the first mayor of Cape Town after apartheid, in the Western Cape. Teresa's daughter was our SRC chairperson, and she fought in the ANC and fought in apartheid. In fact, I met Nelson Mandela because he came to our school. And when she walked there, she was that woman that's going to change my life. That's the message she gave me. You know, if we fight really hard, it's going to be okay. And she did, because people can say what they want to. Our country still. Da, da, da. I keep saying to my son, you see that beach? Mommy couldn't go there. You see that toilet? I couldn't go there. You see that area? We couldn't buy there. I can now. You know, I can decide to wear a scarf or not to wear a scarf. There was nothing about Yabas. I wasn't paid on a DOP system. All of those things is what Teresa fought for. So I think my advice is, find someone that inspires you, and find a message that inspires you. And sorry, I was just emotional a little bit. And find a message that you need to keep. And if somebody says, more for adults and kids, watch your words, man. You know, stop telling somebody they're nothing. Stop. You never know when your words can change that person's life. If you're living in a really bad situation, and somebody with, let's say, a flashy car, because that's our ideal world, flashy car, whatever, and they say, you're so beautiful. Oh, I just love your skin, your hair. It will change automatically how you feel. So for adults, watch your words with kids. Before we judge, before we call all these children messed up, I know many young people that are doing amazing things. I was looking at the students I took in, the engineering students, and they all knew the Quran off by heart. So they were balanced. They were academics, but they were learning their religion as well. And I'm like, where were these guys when I was looking for a husband? If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
we keep saying they're bad people and the youth is messed up. We also had messed up times in our lives. We swept it, everything under the carpet, because nobody
Mm.
needed to know. So for adults, watch your words. For kids, find that person. I don't care who it is. Find that inspiration. Find that person. And if it's your God, then find that and keep going with that. Because you need something, you know, to make you do it, to motivate you. And it doesn't matter. My mom's words to me were always, it's Arabic, فَإِنَّمَا الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. My mom used to say, everything must come to an end. Your bad time in your marriage, it must come to an end. Your heartache, it must come to an end. Life comes to an end. You know, so yeah, that's my words to them. I can't say to them, you can be whatever you have to be. I'm sitting from a seat of privilege. I had to get there and learn to get there. And it's not easy. It's still not easy being a black woman in this country. All I'm saying is find that inspiration. And just, if you think a dream is impossible, keep dreaming it. Just keep dreaming it. Because you never know. Just one day somebody might see it. But just find your inspiration. Find somebody to look up to.
I just love your energy. You're so, passionate about what you're saying. And I so agree with, the difficult times that you go through, all that suffering that you have to deal with actually changes how you see things and how you deal with things, and makes you a better person, and to just find that motivation or inspiration to, I think, channel that into something good, in life. That's what actually you need to find. And that's so important, just to be conscious about what you're going through and how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think we are so consumed with our lives that we forget that everyone's child is our child. You know, I remembered, so I run an orphanage in East River, and these kids come from domestic violent backgrounds, sexually, emotionally, physically, everything, abuse. And when my hair was like this, she'd never touch it. Nothing that's ugly. When my hair's straight, she wants to play with my hair. But she was gang raped. Um, so she's found something um, that must be beautiful. That must be. And when people say, oh, but you can't not play with Auntie Aasiyah's hair, and I'm just like, you cannot imagine the level of trauma this child is going through. And I don't think we are on the ground enough to know this. So when people say, but that child, I'm like, stop. You don't know. You don't know what these kids go through. Ah, but they're lazy. I said, what is it like to go for a job interview, to use the last 50 Rand in the house, and that's what it takes to take you all the way to the CBD? Use the last 50 Rand and you don't get the job. You don't have the look, you don't have the ability to talk. And I mean, it might be a job with your hands, merchandiser, picking up stuff, counting the products. But in the interview, they still want you to be absolutely amazing, like you're the executive. You have the right clothes, so you've got like average clothes. And then all of a sudden, that child comes back. Everyone preaches, you used the last 50 Rand, we could have bought this, we could have bought that. Doesn't get the job, and now you say they're lazy. We have no rights. We have no rights at all. And so yeah, I just feel like we're not in touch. And I was speaking to to Razan that you met now, and she was calling me, and I was in tears, and she's like, "You're going to be in the interview. You can't be having puffy." I said, "I read an article of kids that are chasing and hunting for food, and they hunt pigeons and rabbits because they haven't eaten." I said, "That is so wrong." And sorry, I'm getting so emotional on every level. You know, sorry, I know. So here's the catch. It's in Johannesburg. It's right here. And I said to her, I'm not going to sleep tonight until you find every and any person that is going to give parcels to those kids. Because no child should be chasing after a rabbit or a pigeon to be getting food. So, sorry.
no, you know what? I think this is a fundamental problem we have in this country, right? I mean, I hear this all the time. I was a teacher. I know how teachers speak about the kids as well, you know. It's always like the kids are naughty, they this, they that, they whatever. But you don't understand the amount of trauma that is in the community that people are suffering with, that they cannot overcome. And that is, I think, the biggest problem that we have to deal with before we talk about robots and everything. It's the
So,
people that we need to deal with.
so this was my, when people say profile your customer, this was my customer. Everybody makes fun of this person. Bad air, they poor, 10 people there, they always dirty, whatever. And I give them a remote pilot license and they walk into a 15,000 Rand job. And you're like, well, you now with your studies. You know, it's kind of a revenge for like just everything that everyone has been prejudiced and discriminated. And I always profile this child. And I always say, when they have nothing and next thing they walk straight into a job, double figures, and they're remote pilots, man. They're not a merchandiser or a cashier or a teller because somebody got them the job and you left them out of the system. So I just feel like this is one of those, and for our art skills are of those skills where we don't have to get full accreditation at the university and all of that. And yeah, sure, I can go on, but we need to change, Zara. We need to change who we are. When people say, why didn't the government give food parcels? And I'm like, because the same community workers that don't have money give food. The same people who have nothing give. And I said to somebody once, I said, and I'm a smoker, I'm not proud about it, but I want to mention something. I said, You campaigned for cigarettes to come back. People who drink, they were like, we want our alcohol back. That's a billion rand industry. Tell me quickly, Zara, how much of that money went back into the community during COVID? So we are fighting for us to be killed, and I say us, me, to be killed by an industry who doesn't care about my community. Gave me a different perspective. I was like, you're feeding them. That's what you're doing, you know? And I don't think that the rich are going to get there because they don't care. They shouldn't care. Poverty is a market. So I
Yeah.
just feel like we need to just get together and feed every child on this planet.
Wow. Yeah, I love everything about your story, where you came from, everything you went through, and the change that you're making, the difference that you're trying to make with the community. I just, I'm so happy to see that you guys are doing so well, and that I'm, here talking to you about it. It's just great. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things that we picked up as well was kids have to travel far, it's dangerous, and this is just me going there and just having fun and talking to them. Because remember, I can do everything. I can set up the money, the platform, the training. It's ultimately up to them to make my program success, you know. So I spoke to them and they said, oh, it's a bit far out and we use our money because we don't have food at home, so they use their stipends for transport. And I sat with one of my friends and I said, okay, we're going to design an e-learning platform. And we're going to design a platform where they're going to learn how to fly sitting at home, where they don't have to use their money, but I'll still pay them the money. That way it's a win-win. And it's dangerous. So they sit at home and it's a screen and I can monitor them. So we designed that now. I'm so happy. Say a prayer for us. We designed it now with a SIM card. Zara, where you're sitting, I can monitor how you're flying now. You don't have to come in. I can monitor that. I can see your levels. I can rate you. So the only time you come in is twice. One is for radio control exam. I can't control that. That's a CAA. And one is your final sign out with CAA. Other than that, you keep your 2,000 stipend money, 1,800 money. You take care of your family. Give me what I want. You get what you want. And I'm doing the e-learning modules. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't speak to them. I wouldn't have known to come up with this idea if it wasn't for them. And that's what I'm feeling, is that we're not on the ground all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we need solutions that are for the community. We need to understand the people in Africa, the communities, all the things that they're dealing with. We can't just look at all these European solutions about 4IR and then just bring them here and stick those models in. It doesn't work.
I look at these big philanthropists. That's a nice word for people who get billions into the NPOs. And I spoke to one of them. So they got a R1 billion investment injection from the owner of this company. I think you can put two and two together. And then he started a trust, and that's how it started. And I spoke to them once, and they said, we have this amazing idea. And I said, tell me about your projects. So what we do is we pay for teachers to finish their teaching course, and we give them a little bit more on teaching. I said, and my whole face was like, I don't get it. No, we put 3,000 teachers through university to learn how to teach. And I said, okay, but I don't get what you're doing. And they said, because there's something wrong with our education system. I said, why don't you put that money and pay for 2 extra teachers per classroom in classes that have 70 kids, instead of paying for more teachers to go through studies? Oh, no, that's not actually. Then you don't know. Sarah, then you don't know what our problem is. Because
Yeah.
I've got kids who have to share textbooks every second week they get it. I've got kids that are 70 people in a classroom, outside toilets. Then putting more teachers through, there's no exit strategy. You don't even know if those teachers get jobs. And if they do finish, the public schools can't afford it. Remember, they get a certain amount of funding, the rest they must come up with. You have any fundraising in the area, people can't afford it. My foster home that I run, my orphanage that I run, none of their lists they collect in the community, because those people can't afford it. They come from a poor community. I put it on Facebook and I say, right, each one takes 100 Rand. We're done. Because if each of us give 100 Rand, we can fix this problem. And You get billions. You know what I would do with billions? I'd feed the whole damn country. Sorry.
No, no, I totally agree. I mean, we have so many, even corporate social responsibility projects,
Yeah.
right? It's like people just create solutions for their own, I don't know. I don't even know for what, because there's no problem that they're actually solving. The
I kid
problems are
you
there
not.
and they're like doing something else with it.
I met an MPO who got on average 100 million. So I said, "Oh, what do you do?" We read to kids in their own language. Did I mention? You get 100 million to read to kids. Do you know what I can do with 100 million? It was, I'm, I'm gobsmacked, and I'm disgusted at where the money really goes because who listens to a concept like that and says, "Oh, that's amazing."
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this is the absurdity of it all, right? We have this shortage, we have this gap, and we have so many needs to be filled. And we have the money, but it's not being used in the right way. So there's like a mismatch between all the problems that we need to solve and all the resources that we have. Because there's thinking skills that are missing in between. People cannot use their heads properly to come up with creative solutions for the problems that we have. This is
I
the
don't know.
problem.
I don't know if they want solutions though. I think most of these trusts. I went onto the Philanthropy Society and said maybe we should pay a membership. So your starting membership is something like 50,000 rand. You tell me, a little MPO like us, that we can afford 50,000 rand per month for our membership. So what is this? This is just your higher elite Queen Elizabeth club that they're sitting with so that we can talk about how we save people in Africa, you know? And also, I start an MPO, you start an MPO, they start trusts. What does that tell you? That money goes back again. Our money, we can't go like, oh, when I'm big, my son's going to earn the MPO and then he's going to get the money out of it. Because that's not what our intentions were. Our intentions was to make a difference. They have a trust, good PR, to look good, a little club, and then to show their savior complex, and that's it. So I don't know if the wealthy wants to change this world because poverty is a market, and without poverty, you're probably going to lose out on a lot of money. So I don't think they want to, but they also want to come across as we're doing something. But reading to a child in their own language doesn't make a difference to me at all. At all. I can't fathom how that was even 100 million rand idea. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I it's mind-boggling the lack of I don't know critical thinking around these issues, on the ground because we have so many things that we know can be solved. You just put some thinking in there, some little bit of money, and you can solve them. But like, why isn't that happening?
Yeah.
It's so yeah. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, we had this talk, and we keep saying whenever we make a decision, we're going to be conscious of making this decision out of our own. So my part in the decision or my part in the strategy or the objective is I'm linked to the, let's say, the bigger world where the funding comes from. But how things are going to be executed, and I'll give you an example. We did food parcels and they were cutting down on the food parcels because it got too expensive, right? And we spoke to the community members and they said, you know what, you guys waste money. I don't know why you put all these things in. I didn't know that you get biryani, almost like Norox cubes that gives a taste. You get that. So instead of putting in meat, you get that. Um, and the community told us that. So buy us that. We only make it with rice. We don't want your meat. We don't want the meat. And why don't you buy this instead of that? And it worked out so well that we saved, I think, something like, I don't know, 50 Rand per bag. We could still then carry on to give the same amount of food parcels. Do you think I would have known that, Sarah? I don't live in that survival mode. Sadly, for those people and for me, gratefully for me, I don't, alhamdulillah. But only they know, not us. So if I sat here and said, well, we'll just cut 400 bags because we don't have the money and we insist that we want this label in there, it's complete arrogance, and I think I think we forget the amazing people on the ground, the person that has nothing. So the orphanage I run is a woman that earns 1,500 Rand per month with 24 kids in her keep. And we make it. When I say to her, Mommy, I call her Mommy because everyone else calls her Mommy, so we just fall in. I said, Mommy, my kids need school clothes, all of that. Like, I don't know if I have enough money. She's like, don't worry about it. God will provide. And I'm like, you're not, and she's like, don't worry about it. God will take care of it. You know, she always like grounds me when I'm panicking about what they need or whatever. And when she gets stuff, I already watch her. She's making parcels for everyone in the road. And I'm like, this is supposed to keep us. And she's like, no, we never got poor for giving. There's a lot of poor people in this road as well. So yeah, she's just phenomenal. And I think if ever I would want ideas, or if I want to uplift that community, I'd go to her and say, if I give you 20,000 Rand, what do you think we can do to make money? And what do you think you need from me? So do you need a computer? Do you need internet? Do you need me to market you on Facebook? Do you need a Facebook page? That's all we need to do, because there are amazing community workers already doing stuff.
Exactly. So this is exactly what we're trying to do, right? We want the people in the communities who have been largely left out of everything to be the ones to solve these problems. We're not waiting for saviors to come and just like, take pictures with all the poor people.
Yeah.
We want,
Poverty porn.
yeah, no, we want people from the ground to build these solutions the way they need it to be built. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
And also we come up with solutions and we go home. They live there. They have to endure everything. So are we actually supposed to come up with solutions, or are they supposed to come up with solutions? And they know the solutions, they just don't have all the support, all the resources, all the financial backup. They don't. And yeah. And when people say to me, I wanna come to your home, but I don't have money, and I'm like, the part that I'm teaching my kids is that obviously never be rude, but don't be thank you, Zara, thank you so much, thank you again. Don't treat my kids like that. And a lot of these white people come in and they give them a hot dog and a cool drink, and they have to say thank you, and then they give them one packet of chips and they have to say thank you, and I'm just like, dear Lord, what are my kids? Because in my religion, when I give, I get the reward. So I should be more sort of grateful that I have this opportunity than for them to feel grateful because I came in there to give them something. And I always try and let you keep yourself as there, and you always say thank you. I say thank you to my mommy even. So you always say thank you. But that submissive, thank you, and thank you for the day, and thank you. Like a million times, I say to my kids, no, I'm not going to let you grow up in all of that ghetto mentality. That's not going to happen. And that savior complex. And then when they're done with all of that, obviously the pictures go up and everything. And I say to my friends, did you ever think my biggest thing that I'm trying to teach my kids, when I say my kids, it's the orphanage, is to be integrated. So I want you to drink out of our really chipped glass. I want you to know that we buy 5 Rand coffee and 1 nappy and 10 Rands electricity. And I want you to be okay with it, or give something. You come into this house with a broken couch and you sit there and you stand there with your Porsche or whatever car you have outside. It's the only way my kids are going to be integrated. Don't take them out to Bishops, to your house, and entertain them there. And when they come home, they have to come to poverty. Make them feel that this is your home and I respect your home. That's called integration. And I think that's the part that we just fail so dismally. You can see when the donors come in, and then my foster mom's like, don't say anything because I'm very rude. Don't say anything. I'm like, do you have a problem with our seats? Please take a seat. We clean the house. Yeah, so they don't like that at all. And when they come with food that's expired, oh, Zara, I grew up on the Cape Flats, you'll see all of me coming out right then.
Yeah, that's not on. I don't.
Are these dogs that you're feeding? Go take your rubbish and go feed it to your own family. These are my kids. Go take your stuff and go. And my foster mom is hiding in shame And I'm like, it's not right. It doesn't matter what you say, it's not right. And you can say, we won't eat it, we'll keep it, and then say thank you because you never know if they're not going to come in next time. I don't care. God's put out stuff for us already. Whatever's meant for us will be. And what's not won't reach us. They got to go. Woo! That's when the ghetto comes.
No, you have to stand up for what is right? No matter what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We need more
Phew.
people like that, I think. You stand and you even if people are offended by what you're saying, you have to do what is the right thing.
True. And I mean, I won't be ungrateful if I don't eat cabbage and you brought cabbage. I won't. And our kids eat anything. You know, somebody brought tomatoes. My kids have been eating tomatoes for probably 2 weeks. Tomato everything. Just tomato with this, tomato with that, because they didn't have any other food. And she didn't tell me. They just ate. So whenever I come there, I go all out, like I do Kentucky or Nando's or Steers, because I know they don't, and we're too many to go out. I only have one car, and there's 24 kids. So I'm not offended by that. But when you treat them like animals, it offends me completely. Because feed that expired food to your own kids. You won't. That broken clothes that you're bringing here, that is insulting. You know, that is like, ugh, I just threw this out. And because we get people that bring really nice clothes, we're not talking expensive, something decent for my kids to wear. Just all I'm asking is to treat them like humans. That's all I'm asking. So yeah, I do get rude.
No, I think this is we should expand that to the entire society as well, right? It's not just the kids in the orphanage. The way we treat other people, we
Yeah,
we don't treat them with the same respect we treat our own family. We should do
yeah,
that. We have to do that, even if they're beggar on the street. You cannot just
true.
like throw things at people. You have to treat people with dignity, and I think that's largely missing in our society, very much so.
Yeah, and we forget that our future is already written for us. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know if we'll exchange places with that person asking for food. Alhamdulillah, we're in a good space right now. And again, that's where I think my past comes and my experience. And when you're young, you're like, I hate being poor, and my daddy doesn't have this, and people are making fun of us. And now that I'm older, I'm so glad for my experience because I know what it's like. I know what it's like going to bed, not having food, not having electricity, arguing about money, where your rates are more than what the bond is, and there's so many arguments at home, and you just want this feeling to go away. So I know what it's like living in that environment, and to me, I just feel like things can change like that. God can change my life around at any time. I can be homeless. I can be without anything. Then what? Then it's going to be opposite roles, and I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't want to, and somebody's going to treat me bad, throw something at me, and give me old stuff. So, yeah, that's always how I think. I always think we don't know our destiny. We don't. We can try, we don't.
Yeah, I think, we're talking about all of these things, a lot of different things. But I think what is key here is, being human, you know,
Yeah.
treating people as human beings, recognizing that in them. And, it's not just about the technology going forward, it's about people and how we treat them and how we act as human beings. So that is, I think, the fundamental thing we
I
need to take going forward.
Yeah. And we don't because we're not in touch. So only when you're in touch you realize, oh, I got to step back because, we've moved up a little bit, so now we don't see it. And now you got to step back. And I think there's a reason why you put into the space, and that reason is to learn a lesson and to learn all the time. When I sometimes hear my son say, I want this, and I'm like, do you know what my kids want? They just want love. That's all. And somebody said to me once, they said, I keep telling my child, those poor kids at the orphanage, they're so poor. And I said, I keep not wanting to hear the word poor. That is not their whole life. You don't
Mm.
know my children. All of them have different personalities. I have a diva. I have somebody he's an artist. I have different kids. I said, if you're trying to explain what an orphanage is, there's one simple explanation I would like you to give. Those kids don't have parents. That's a privilege. That's it. Take out the money, the clothes, the everything. Your kid has parents. My child has parents. Separated, but they have parents. Those kids don't have parents. That alone is a privilege. Stop saying those poor kids and those kids are so poor and they so, because that's how your child's going to see them and look down on them. Once you tell them they don't have parents, because to a child, a parent means the world. And no child can fathom not having a parent growing up in a house with parents. I think then you change the whole perception.
Mm.
So, yeah. Whew, sorry, Zara. I talk a
No,
lot, don't I? I'm
no,
the
that
opposite
was
of Roseanne.
no, I mean, this was a really, I think, very important conversation to have. These are such, significant topics to be addressed. And the more people speak about it and awaken to it, the better it would become for everybody in the community, I guess. And we just need more people like you doing things, standing up for what
And
is right,
you.
and making a difference to the communities that they're in. Because that's all we can ask for. We want you to stand up in your community, be more conscious, be more human, and inspire other people around you. That's it.
Absolutely. Whew, thank you. Thank you
So
again.
thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your story, for telling us about all this brilliant work that you're doing, even the orphanage and this school that you're creating. So many different things one person is doing. It's fantastic. Yeah. So we'd love to hear more about this in future. As you reach more
Yes,
milestones and goals and your achievements, we'd love to hear about that, because we all, I think, in this together, helping each other out, building the whole continent. We have to do this together. So
absolutely.
thank you for being here and sharing everything with us.
Thank you for the opportunity and for the platform. And like I said before, we need these platforms and we need these voices, because without the funding, we can't reach out. And without the voices, we can't get the funding. So thank you so much and keep doing what you're doing. And I know I take on a lot. I'm just finishing my directorship certification that I've kept the board exam for so long, but I want to study again, and I definitely want to take up some of your courses. I really, really like it. It looks good.
We'll see you again in very soon. Yeah. So this is not the last of it. So thank you for everything. Yeah. I hope this talk inspires some other people as well. So
I hope so too. Thanks, Zara. Keep it up,
you
huh?
too.